After Diwali, my mom, my younger brother Rayan, and I signed up for the Sandakphu Phalut trek, a trek famous for offering views of the four tallest peaks in the world. But more than just a mountain adventure, this trek turned out to be a profound meeting of nature, culture, and self discovery. We flew out of Mumbai on 24th October and landed in Bagdogra. From there, a drive took us up to Darjeeling. This was my first time in East India, and it felt like stepping into another country with a completely different atmosphere, culture, and people. We have just reached Sepi, our base camp for the next 6 days, after a really scenic 5 hour drive from Darjeeling. Over here, we're surrounded by the hills and the clouds, and the river is literally roaring below us. This feels like the perfect setup for the next 6 days, and I'm so excited for the adventure ahead. After a quick freshen up, we had a trek briefing where we came to know that our group consisted of 24 people, including 5 kids. The trek from Sepi to Samandain was of 7 to 8 hours, where the trek distance was 14 kilometers and we gained an altitude of 1400 feet. When you start from Sepi, you come across this iconic bridge which marks the starting point of the actual trek. For the first few hours, the path remained on a constructed road. Along the way, we noticed corn cobs hanging on rooftops, a traditional method that preserves seeds, symbolizing prosperity and ensures food security for the next season. After Ramam, the terrain changed drastically. The long climb took a toll on most trekkers, especially Rayan. By the time we reached Samandain, it was dark, cold, and exhaustion was settled into our bones. The next morning, the tea house owner addressed us. Samandin has only 140 residents. The villagers chose to stay here, prioritizing culture over urban opportunity. Their homes double as homestays, not out of convenience, but as a way to keep their heritage alive. On the third day, we trekked from Samandain to Molly, and we trekked for over 7 hours and covered approximately 10 kilometers with an altitude gain of 3,500 feet. It was an extremely challenging day as the entire route was a steep climb and we gained a lot of altitude. The uniqueness as we walked through the forest was that we were in the heart of the Sangalila National Park. And after every few hours, it felt like we were in some other place. Like it was a different trek altogether. And bamboo forests appeared out of nowhere, dense, mystical, and endless. I had never seen such thick bamboo forests in any of my prior treks. Many in the group struggled that day, and it was dark and freezing when we reached Molly. The high altitude had begun. On day 4, we trekked from Molly to Sarbagram via Phalut. The trek duration was of 8 to 9 hours, and we covered a distance of 18 kilometers. We had a continuous ascent and descent, and we started at 4 a.m., hoping to catch a sunrise at Sabargram. But the thick crowds rolled in, covering everything. At Falut, the visibility was almost zero. Everyone had said the first 2 days would be the hardest. But for us, day 3 was definitely the toughest. The weather, the disappointment, and the exhaustion. What was supposed to be a trek with beautiful views of the Himalayan mountains, the highest ones in the world, and the best sunrises and sunsets, have now turned into a monsoon trek. And for the last 2 days, we haven't been able to see anything more than 2 meters away because of the clouds and the fog. And the views we would have gotten if they weren't there would have been really amazing, but this the weather has not been on our side. On day 5, we trekked from Sabargram to Al. We covered a total distance of 13 kilometers and we trekked for over 8 hours. The altitude gain was minimum, but it was a continuous ascent and descent. The route runs along the Singalilan Ridge on the Indian-Nepal border, all through to the Sandakphu top. It rained constantly. The visibility and the spirits were both low. For the first 2 hours, all I did was complain in my head. But slowly a shift happened. I began seeing the trail for what it was: raw, mystical, three dimensional, like walking inside a live painting. I realized so much in life doesn't go as planned, but acceptance unlocks joy. And the moment I accepted the rain, I started enjoying it. Just before reaching Al, the sky cleared for a moment. A brief window where the peaks appeared like a blessing. On day 6, we trekked from Al to Gurudum via Sandakphu, and we lost approximately 4,200 feet. We began with wet shoes, wet clothes, and wet everything. The cyclone in the Bay of Bengal had hit India, Nepal, and Thailand. Other groups behind us were turned back and their trek was cancelled. We had no option but to push forward. At the Sandakphu junction, our trek leader asked us, "Do you want to climb this peak? The visibility is zero. It's raining and it's very risky." The logic said no. Adventure said yes, and so the group chose yes. There wasn't any view, but the feeling of standing on the highest point of East India in that weather was unforgettable. The descent to Gurdum was slippery, steep, and full of falls. We reached Gurdum at about 6 pm. The last 1 hour was hiking in the dark, but this homestay was a welcome change. The hospitality that you receive at these homestays in general is very basic but outshines a lot of commercial hotels. We also did our debrief session, and it was really heartening to hear from each and every team member about their reflections, learnings, and takeaways. On day 7, we trekked from Gurdum to Seppi and then drove from Seppi to Siliguri. The total trek duration was only 3 hours and the distance was only 4 kilometers. And we lost over 1,000 feet in altitude. We started from Gurdum at 9 am and this was the final stretch of the trek. The way was very slippery and risky. We encountered several small landslides on the way, which made it very difficult for us to descend as the route was swept off. Tributaries from different directions converged in this major river which we were walking next to, and the flow of this river was ferocious. The route led us to the Seppi suspension bridge where we had started the trek. Finally, we reached the same suspension bridge where it all began. And just like that, the trek was over. One of the biggest learnings for me from this trek was that one should never underestimate anything. Because despite going on many high altitude, extremely challenging treks, 70 kilometers in 6 days at that altitude and weather was extremely difficult. You can prepare, you can hope, but nature has its own plans. Your responses define your experience. The assets of Sandakphu will stay with me for a long time because I discovered limits which I never thought I had. যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো রে